Work session meeting of July 2nd, 2013. I'm calling the meeting to order. And the first item on our agenda is approval of minutes for June 25th of 2013 for the regularly scheduled council work session meeting. Does anyone have any amendments or changes to the minutes that you've been provided?
Just a minor thing, is it Friends at Mount Carmel or Friends of Mount Carmel?
I think it's of.
Yeah, just make that minor correction, I'll fix it after. I'll make a motion to adopt with that one.
There's been a motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 25th, 2013 at the council work session meeting. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further amendments? All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes, please say aye. Aye. Meeting minutes are hereby approved. Second item on our agenda is a presentation or an update from Scott Flanagan discussing anything and everything regarding the recycling program in Cecil County.
Morning, Mr. President, members of the council. Thank you for this opportunity to come before you this morning and share with you some, I'll call it some breaking news with regard to the county's recycling contract. With me this morning, to my immediate left, of course, is Mr. Pete Beanick, who is the chief of the Solid Waste Management Division within the Cecil County Department of Public Works, and then to Pete's left is Tanya Adams, who is our recycling program manager within Solid Waste Management Division. Our purpose this morning is to update the council on a transition to a new recycling contract in order to enhance your understanding of that contract as well as solicit your support in promoting the county's recycling program. This is the agenda which we will follow this morning. I'll lead off by showing you a chart that strives to compare the current and the new recycling contracts, and then we'll drill down into some of the perhaps more arcane details of this new recycling contract, share with you some information about the composition of the county's recycling stream, give you an example of how the new contract calculates the value of that recycling stream, and also how we intend to offer recycling credits to haulers that bring the recyclables to the county. Then we'll wrap it up with some conclusions and then be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right.
With this, and you each received a hard copy of the briefing slides. What this slide endeavors to do is to compare the current contract, which is in this column here, with the new contract, which is in that column, and these are some of the key elements. So, for example, our current recycling contractor is Waste Management Recycle America, LLC, but effective September 1st of 2013, we're going to switch to a firm known as ReCommunity. At the present time, and for the last several years, Waste Management has hauled the recyclables that are brought into the county landfill to a material recovery facility, or MRF, located in Elkridge, Maryland. ReCommunity is in the process of constructing a new MRF in Wilmington, Delaware, and that's where they will haul our recyclables there once that facility is online. Under the terms of the current contract, we are not charged anything by Waste Management for transportation and disposal of those recyclable materials, and under the new contract, we will also not be charged any for that. However, under the current contract, we also don't receive anything for the value of that material. It doesn't cost us anything, but we don't get anything either monetarily. You know, what we do get, of course, is keeping recyclable materials out of the landfill, conserving landfill capacity, etc. Under the new contract, ReCommunity, which was done via a request for proposals, and I have to say Waste Management Recycle America did not submit a proposal in response to our RFP. And what that essentially told me was that they were going to stick with the cards that they had in their hand. They weren't going to draw any new cards. They were just sticking with the hand that they had, but it turns out that ReCommunity gave us what we believe to be a superior proposal, a key component of which is that they are proposing to share 18% of the value of that recyclable stream. Whereas under the current contract, we get 0% of the value of that recyclable stream, whereas under the new contract, we will get 18% of the value of the recyclable stream. Now, not reflected on the slide, but there are a couple of other key components in ReCommunity's proposal that also sweeten the pot, so to speak, in that ReCommunity will be providing the county a grant in the form of $26,000 per year that the county will use to promote recycling. In addition, ReCommunity, as part of their proposal, has agreed to provide or support some document shredding events, not only for citizens, but also here at the county admin building for the county government to dispose of material that needs to be shredded in accordance with the county's document management policy.
Is that included in the presentation? I don't see that. 26,000.
No, I did not list that. I did not list that on any of the slides.
A $26,000 grant.
Yes. Yeah. It's not specifically called out. You'll see it a bit later in one of the spreadsheets in the examples. Thanks, Pete. We have given notice to Waste Management Recycle America that we are terminating their contract effective August 31st of this year, and so ReCommunity will take over as of September 1st of this year for a 5-year period. In order to calculate the value of the stream of single stream recyclables, you need to know what's in there. And so back in December of 2012, we conducted a waste audit. And what that is taking representative samples of incoming recyclables and physically separating those into various categories, which are listed around the exterior of the pie chart. And then, you do the math to calculate what was the percent by weight of each of these materials. So, and these are rounded to the nearest percent. But for example, that waste audit revealed that the single largest component of our stream of recyclables that comes into the county landfill is categorized as this PS11 corrugated containers, which comprise 22% by weight. 21% of that recyclable stream was classified PS1 soft mixed paper, and the next largest component was PS6 newspaper, followed by mixed glass, and so on. So for example, steel cans were 3%, aluminum cans were 2%, then there were 3 different categories of plastics: PET, HDPE natural, and then HDPE colored. And then everything else, which didn't fall into any of the other categories, essentially contamination, is classified as residue, which was approximately 11%. And in a moment, you'll see how, why it's important or necessary to know that and how that comes into play. This chart shows an example of how the value of the county's recycling stream is calculated. So that previous pie chart showed there were 10 categories of material here, 1 through 10, you know, all the way from the corrugated containers down to that residue. And then here is a more precise number with regard to what percent by weight that represented. Recall that on the pie chart that was rounded to 22%, with residue at 11. Now, each of these commodity streams, there is, you know, has value, and there's a market for that. And there is an index published that shows what is the value of that material at any point in time. And that index, of course, fluctuates up and down with the market for that material. And we have, I think subscribed is the right word for that, to the service that provides these indices. And in this recycling contract, it's linked to the value of these commodity streams as measured by this index, the official name of which is the New York Maritimes Northeast USA Market Region Price Indices for these various materials. So in June, the value of this PS11 corrugated containers was valued at $122.50 per ton per that index. Soft paper, $62.50, newspaper, $42.50. As you can see, the aluminum cans at $1,150 per ton has the highest value. Residue, of course, has none. And so if you multiply, you know, that percentage by that number, you get these numbers in this column. And then if you add all that up, what this says is that based on that waste audit in December of 2012, the county's single stream recyclable material is valued, or was valued, at $128.48 per ton. And you'll recall from the previous slide that ReCommunity's proposal, or proposed, to share 18% of the value of that with the county. And so if you do that math, multiply 18% times $128.48 per ton, that would show that, you know, had this contract been in effect for the month of June, the county would have received $23.13 per ton for the recyclable material, vice the zero, which we actually received under the current contract. It is county policy that, as you'll recall from previous discussions, that the landfill enterprise, or solid waste disposal operations, are an enterprise fund. The county's policy is that the enterprise fund needs to cover its cost. It doesn't turn a profit that then gets applied to some other element of county government. It stays within that solid waste activity. And we believe that this new contract will allow us to cover the cost of the county recycling program, which has historically not been the case. In other words, the county recycling program brings in revenue, but has, through the sale of scrap metal and ink cartridges and vinyl siding and other things like that, but that revenue has not been enough to cover the costs. But, you know, the decision of the county has been that it's worth it for the benefits that are derived through recycling, not the least of which is conservation of landfill capacity. But we believe that under this new contract, we will be able to cover our costs of the recycling program and have, I don't know what other word to use, but essentially turn a profit that can in turn be credited back to the haulers that bring us the material. In other words, the haulers, you know, are in essence going to get paid to bring the material to us. Now that's a function of the market. You know, it's going to go up and down based on what's happening with those commodity prices. But under what I've got here, in a minute, I'll try to walk you through this example. But so what we're calling this is a recycling credit. It's going to be calculated quarterly and then would be applied as a credit to that hauler's next month's refuse invoice. And here's an example. This, again, these calculations will be done on a quarterly basis, and what they're going to do, or under this, the way this is going to work, is that we will sum up all of the recycling revenues. And for example, here, we get revenue through the sale of scrap metal, through the sale of inkjet cartridges, through the sale of vinyl siding, which the county takes in. And under this example, you know, we are projecting revenue of $20,500 per quarter. This is what we would get paid by ReCommunity for the value of the single stream recyclables as determined by that previous example. As self-haulers bring in recyclable materials, they pay a nominal fee, $1 if you're just bringing in recyclables, or $5 if you're bringing in recyclables and trash, $1 of which would be applied towards the recycling. In addition, we currently charge commercial haulers a tip fee of $4 per ton to bring in or to dispose of the recyclable materials at the landfill. So based on, under this example, that would be a number of tons times 4. In addition, as folks bring in tires, the solid waste charges a disposal fee for tires. It varies according to the size of the tire. In addition, if a hauler has tires in their load, then they are charged a tire recovery fee. So that's under this example, $9,500 per quarter. And then there is the $26,000 per year grant from ReCommunity to promote the recycling program that I talked about a little bit earlier. So, you know, if you take that, divide by 4, you get $6,500 per quarter. Add it all up, $68,880. Now, what we do down here is summarize the expenses, which is the salary and fringes for our recycling program manager. In addition, there are processing costs, which is comprised of labor and equipment, which is to receive and transload the recyclable materials that come into the landfill. And so under this example, that's estimated to be $36.50 per quarter. In addition, in the Solid Waste Management Division operating budget, there's a line called trash removal and recycling, and that is what pays for a number of events. For example, household hazardous waste day events, disposal of sharps, disposal of other materials that we have to pay to dispose of that we don't get paid for. And so under this example, that's $37,725. In addition, we spend money promoting the recycling program and other special events. There's cost for supplies. We spend money on training. And under this example, it comes up to $61. So if you subtract that from that, you get an operating income of $77.76. Under this example, let's say we took in 900 tons of single stream recyclables at the landfill during that quarter. If you then divide that into that, it turns out to be $8.64 per ton over and above the county's costs. And so this then would be distributed to the haulers in proportion with the number of tons that they have brought to us. And then it would be credited towards their trash invoice. So, for example, if a hauler, let's say a sample hauler just brought 1 ton into us during this quarter, they would have paid $4 to tip it, but then they would get a credit of $8.64, so they would net a positive $4.64 for that ton of material. In conclusion, to reiterate, we are in the process of changing contractors to Reed Community. They start on September 1st. As far as when are the haulers going to see the credits for the first time, they'll see it for the first time in October, but that will just be for the month of September. Then they'll see it again in January, covering the period of October through December of 2013, April for the period January through March of 2014, and so on. We believe that this new contract will yield multiple benefits, that, as you heard me say, we believe that, and I guess this is contingent upon commodity prices remaining fairly strong. If they drop, then we may not be able to, then our revenues will go down, and we may not be able to cover the cost of our recycling program. But assuming that those commodity prices stay at their current level or perhaps go up, we anticipate that this will allow us to cover the cost of the county recycling program. We also believe that it will provide a cost-effective means for the haulers to dispose of their single-stream recyclable material locally. They are not required by the county to bring that material to us. In other words, we do not have what is called flow control. Those haulers are free to take that material somewhere else. They can haul that to another material recovery facility. I suppose they could bring it up there directly to Reed Community. But we believe that that's costly. They wouldn't get paid that much. It costs money to haul material up there. This stuff is pretty light. And so we believe that this will provide a competitive and cost-effective option for the haulers, but they are not required to bring it to us. They are free to take it where they want. We also believe that it will provide a stronger financial incentive to the haulers and municipalities to maximize recycling. Because if that material, paper, cardboard, glass, etc., comes in as trash, they're going to have to pay $63 per ton to dispose of it. Whereas if they are able to induce their customers to separate that out from the trash stream and put it in the recycling stream, they have the potential to get paid for it. So instead of paying $63 per ton, they could get paid something to bring it to us. In that example I just showed you, that was $8.64 per ton. And so we believe that this will provide a stronger financial incentive to those haulers and the municipalities to promote the recycling program. And it's our intent to help them in that endeavor. That's the purpose of that $26,000 grant. And lastly, the more material that is recycled, that not only saves on raw materials and energy costs, etc., but from a county perspective, it also helps conserve landfill capacity. Pete and Tanya, was there anything you care to add or elaborate?
Well, I'd like to say one of the things with the program that we're going to be able to do is go out with the haulers, to meet with the haulers, meet with the municipalities, and try and help them find ways to improve the programs. By improving them programs, not only will it help the haulers, municipalities, as we increase our numbers, it will also increase the revenue, which will increase their share. It's an expanding program, which we hope will greatly grow it.
All right. At this time, we'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have.
Do any of the council members have any questions on the recycling program in general, or the contract? Mr. Dunn?
Scott, it sounds like a good deal on this too, though. What sort of track record does Reed Community have? Have you guys looked into that? Or?
We did look into their performers. They're part of a national conglomerate company. In fact, they just built a new facility at Delaware Solid Waste Authority, where they actually rented a space for 10 years there. They invested $17 million into a brand new recycling facility. So their track record's good. They've been around for quite a while. Like I said, they've also joined with multinational conglomerate companies, so they have the financial backing. We've seen their pro formas, and we feel confident that we'll be able to meet all our needs through time.
Councilman, that was one of our concerns as well, because we've had a long-standing and very good working relationship with Waste Management, Recycle America, which is a subsidiary of Waste Management, which is the largest waste management company in the nation, and so we knew that Waste Management Recycle America LLC has had a long and successful track record, and that was one of our concerns, was if we were to switch to a new contractor, and so we did do what I'm going to call some very extensive due diligence to look at those issues, and we're satisfied that these folks have a solid track record, and as Pete has indicated, they've made a substantial capital investment, $17 million in constructing this new material recovery facility, and they've also entered into a long-term contract with Delaware Solid Waste Authority to provide these services for DSWA, and we also did check references with other entities, including DSWA, who currently have these folks under contract, and they got stellar reviews all around.
Mr. McCarthy, do you have any questions?
Concerning this company, do they basically handle everything that you recycle? For example, you deal with fluorescent lights and paints and et cetera, et cetera.
They only handle the single stream recycling as part of the single stream program. It's what you would drop off in those bins. They don't, fluorescent tubes are another contract that we have with a company, because that's not a commodity we get paid for.
Okay.
It's literally everything that you separate out of your garbage and put in your single stream recycling bin. But they handle it from the time it hits our facility. We pack it into a trailer. They provide the trailers, the transportation, the separation, and the marketing of the product.
Now, liquid petroleum products, that's another contract. We get a different,
We have to go through MES for that, where oils are, they take them and they provide all the insurance so that if somebody contaminates it, it will cause a problem. We don't make money on that, but it doesn't cost us money. And they also provide all the indemnification just in case of a serious accident where somebody put something they shouldn't put in there.
and the last question is asphalt shingles, which weigh quite a bit. Is there anything that you can do to recycle those things at this point?
At this point, no. There are companies that do it, but the market is not great enough, and we would have to find a way to separate it, segregate it, store it, and then get paid for it. It's part of a construction debris recycling program, which I've looked at, but under our current situation, it's probably not,
I see
not
tons
viable.
of that stuff show up.
Excuse me?
I see tons of it show up at your landfill.
It does, and we've tried to find ways of pulling it out, but to find the market, and, we would have to have a material recovery facility just for that purpose.
Thank you very much.
Councilwoman Romel, you have any questions?
Yeah. Is there a county that already has this set up, just like this?
With this company or similar?
Simple.
Well, Hartford County, a lot of the other counties were part of the waste management contract. In fact, we wrote the contract from Hartford County for this waste management version. There are other entities out there in the market now. Baldwin County's trying to build their own MRF. We are the first to work with Recommunity because they just built a facility which is only 20 miles from ours, which is one of the reasons why it was such a good deal for us, because the transportation is the biggest cost.
And how long has Hartford County had theirs in place?
But there's a place with waste management.
It was probably before 2006.
So there was revenue in
No,
this?
no, they didn't get revenue. They paid for the longest time. They paid Waste Management to take the material out. Then they turned it over to a contract where it was a 0-0 floor. Basically, they didn't pay for it, and they didn't get paid for it. Just like, and we wrote that very same contract to change to a 0 floor. Nobody that we know of is getting paid. Actually, we think we're getting one of the better deals we've seen out there.
Okay. And then, the makeup, of the audit, is the contract contingent on it being consistent with this sort of breakdown?
What, you mean the materials? Okay, we have in the contract where they have to provide a waste audit twice a year. So they'll come in and see, because if we get a better waste audit, we'll get better revenue. If we get a worse one, it's potentially up and down, but we decided to go with a market-based program where it's fair in all parts.
In other words, to begin, the math is done based on the results of that December 2012 waste audit, which we did. But as Pete indicated, the contract allows the contractor to come in and conduct their own waste audit, was it twice a year?
Twice a year.
So in other words, if they, based on what they're seeing, you know, if they think that it's deviating significantly and it's worth the trouble, then they have the ability to come in and conduct a waste audit, which potentially could change the percentage breakdown.
So the integrity of that information is vital. Who did we hire to do the audit?
We did it through Blazowski and Associates, which is the company that we work with.
Okay, and they would also have a company like that, they could just hire an information, what do you call it? Did you wanna hire a subject matter expert?
They could do that, but we have the rights to be there during that waste audit, and they would be using our scales and everything, so we would be tracking what actually goes in now.
Yeah,
That would be an audit then, if it's a subject matter
Well,
expert.
the way we're doing it, it's considered audit to look at our waste.
That's the industry term. It's called a waste audit when you receive the incoming waste stream and you separate it out into the different components. So.
Okay, and, we just increased the fees at the landfill, reading about that, in the paper, people having lots of questions. Could you remind me on the recycling, how much did we justify an increase? There was no increase whatsoever on the recycling portion.
The administration proposed an increase for the less than 200 pounds recyclables only from $1 to $2, but the council amended that and kept it at $1.
That was all the question.
Councilwoman Boltry, do you
Yeah,
have
I
a
just
question?
have one. Do you have a feel for how many households in Cecil County recycle?
Based on what we brought, 30%.
Well, the
30% of that.
one, you need to, picture the universe of households in Cecil County, and you can separate those into two categories. Those who have curbside trash pickup,
Right.
either because they live in a municipality that provides that, or because they subscribe to a commercial service. And the other half is the self-haulers who bring it themselves. Those who have curbside trash pickup, those haulers, whether they are under contract to a municipality or are offering a commercial service out in the unincorporated areas, are required by county code to provide their customers with curbside pickup of recyclables. And so 100% of those residents who have curbside pickup of recyclables are, 100% who have curbside pickup of trash are provided curbside pickup of recyclables. Now, what percentage of them avail themselves of that service for which they are already paying, I'm not sure. I think the answer is it's going to vary widely. Within the municipalities, some of them have been very aggressive in promoting and enforcing the recycling requirements. The town of Chesapeake City comes to mind. They have a very aggressive and robust recycling program for which they've received awards for that. And so I'm going to say their percentage of participation is going to be higher. I'm going to guess probably over 80%, whereas other ones out in the unincorporated areas of the county, where there is not a municipality enforcing it, it's probably a lot less. But we believe that this new program with that recycling credit, which we explained, will or should give haulers and municipalities a stronger financial incentive to promote the recycling. And it's our intent to monitor recycling tonnages as we go forward to see if we can detect any change.
Thank you.
I have a couple of questions. About how many total tons did we have recycled for single stream in 2012?
About 5,000
5,000
total
tons.
tons.
I noticed on your quarterly, you were estimating 900 tons per quarter.
Yeah, that was actually, that 900 came from, we did it just prior to, like it was estimated early June when we did this spreadsheet. And as of now, we're about 5,000.
So you could expect it to go to 1,000 tons per quarter or more if we do a good job of encouraging people to recycle.
Yes.
And what about mattresses? Is there anything on the horizon on recycling or disposing of mattresses?
There is a company that started recycling mattresses in Baltimore. Through the Maryland Recycling Network, we're continuing to get information on the company in order to facilitate that being a possibility in the future, being able to recycle those.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions? I want to commend the department for recycling. I think that the county has done a great job, and I hope that we can encourage our citizens to recycle more. There's more that we can do, and I know that Tanya Adams has done a really great job, and she's got many awards for her efforts. It only benefits the county and the landfill, and every citizen ultimately will benefit from it. So I ask you to keep up the great work. Thank you. So we'll move on to the next item unless anyone has any.
I just have a question about this is on another topic, the mulch. Why isn't there availability of mulch at the landfill?
We do have it available from time to time, but it's a matter of the material coming in and a matter of us being able to process it. Plus, you can't just grind it and throw it out. You know, if there's a sale, you've got to let it age, you've got to windrow it, you've got to turn it and make it meet certain criteria, and it's a matter of timing. A lot of our incoming waste during the spring and fall. So by the time we've got it in the spring, we've turned it and then we've put it out. We've only got a limited amount. And again, when you bring it in, it comes in at one amount. By the time it reduces in size through decay and time, it gets smaller. So we only have a limited resource of what's coming into us. And we also don't put out what we call the junk mulch. We try to put out a quality mulch, which is the hardwood mulch. And then the other material that's what we consider junk, we use on site.
Do you sell any of this mulch to commercial or?
Not at the moment, no.
Never have?
Never have.
Okay.
Thank you, Director Planning, for that update. The next item on our agenda is the amendment number 22-2013, employee manual. This amendment for resolution has been introduced. There's been a public hearing, and we will be considering it tonight. And I guess I wanted to make sure that the council members have read it, understood it, and are prepared to vote on it tonight. Now, I see that there were.
I'm over here.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Hart, I'm over here.
Oh, okay. I knew I lost it. Last chance to ask questions. Are we okay with all the amendments? There's quite a few of them that are proposed. Do we want to talk about any, or do we have any questions for tonight?
I have one question. With the vacation leave, it's increased, there's increased hours that you can keep roll over.
It's just hours to roll over, correct.
And it's not related to the Healthcare Act? It's not
No,
related-
it's just, again, it's not additional vacation days either, it's just the amount that you can carry over into a new fiscal year that's increased, or recommended to increase.
Okay, and that was just the basis of recommending been increasing, what was the reason for that?
It's
Ann?
because of the addition of the personal days, we currently have 3, we're requesting, an addition of 2 more, so the potential for people to, lose days or, not be able to use all the days, was the reason for the request. We don't want to encourage the last week of the year, the fiscal year, June, people having to take off, especially in a 24/7 operation, so this allows them to carry that over.
Wasn't there a reduction, my memory's not the best, wasn't there a reduction in, other days? for this?
The offset was, if you recall, we had sick family time that was allowed to be used and scheduled sick time, that we're eliminating out of the manual, as the offset, so that people could use personal hours, I guess, if you call them that, for their medical appointments, scheduled medical appointments instead of scheduled sick time.
Okay, thanks for.
Are there any other comments, questions, or suggestions regarding resolution number 42-2013, amending the employee manual? Okay, we'll move on to the adoption of the council policies and procedures. This resolution has also been introduced, the public hearing's been held, and we will be considering its adoption tonight. There's been continuous and constant feedback and input from different people. Is there anything that's new? I know we're not all happy about every revision, but any of the latest input from others that we want to incorporate into the manual? Are we satisfied with?
No.
No, I don't want to I do not want to rehash things that we've already talked about. But there's been some other ideas thrown at us. Does anyone have any, want to include them, make revisions or amendments? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the next item. This is an item that I think that we've discussed this before. The question has been raised again on how often do we want the council attorney to attend our meetings. Do we want to have him there every meeting? Do we want to have them when he's called? Do we want to have him come only when asked? And I guess I'd just like to have some guidance from the county attorney. I'd like to have some guidance on how often he should attend our meetings. In the past, Mr. Wilson came practically every meeting, and is it really necessary for that to continue? And we have been meeting without the council attorney in the room unless we've requested him to be here for specific matters. Does anyone have an opinion on this set of it?
Mr. President, if you don't mind, Jason is here this morning at the request of the county executive, just for information purposes.
Right, and he'll be here at our closed session to discuss litigation. So what's the pleasure of the board on policy on the council attorney supporting the council?
I would suggest that he need not attend unless he's specifically required to be here for any issues that we deal with, which might knowingly require the opinion of an attorney.
But that's how I generally agree. And the bottom line is, I like the council members, when they believe it's necessary, if they've read the agenda and see something that they believe, seek legal advice or have some opinions provided to us, then they should request it. And I or John will ask the county attorney to show up. Now, I would also say that Mr. Allison has conveyed to me that he would be available by teleconference if we have an immediate need that arises that we didn't anticipate. And I hope that I can satisfactory unless does anyone else have an opinion on this? Mr. Dunn? Ms. Brunel?
Well, I've expressed before that I have a concern with attorney representing the county executive and council at the same time. I don't believe he needs to be here all the time, if he is going to be our attorney. But he needs to acknowledge his opinions could be, there could be a conflict of interest.
Ms. Bowlby, do you?
I'm totally in agreement with coming as needed.
Okay, then we'll continue the, same history that we've had over the last several months, that Mr. Allison will not be attending our meetings unless the executive asks him to. I ask him to, or any council member convey through Mr. Massey to ask him to be there to answer questions that may arise.
It might be good to have some sort of guidance from the attorney for damage control, things to avoid. If he's not here, getting into hot water for, getting into areas where we would require legal guidance. If there's any parameters he could give to us, just avoid statements or actions or votes.
Well, then can we open up to another category? If the council attorney believes he should be here because there's some controversial issue that may be on our agenda, he's welcome to come and just be proactive, I'll say, to guide us and prevent us from doing something stupid. If there's something on our agenda that could get us in trouble.
In that respect, I do look at your legislation before it goes into your packet, so I should have an idea about that in advance and can contact the council president.
Yes.
Discuss, if I have a concern, discuss that in advance.
Thank you. All right, so the next item on our agenda is the review of legislation for introduction this evening. That's in our legislative packet.
Mr. President, I was wondering if the council could take up item F first, because Mr. Trolio is here and may be able to answer questions and has to depart in a few minutes, I believe.
Okay, this is resolution number 72-2013. This is an intergovernmental agency agreement, senior services, community transit, Department of Social Services. Mr. Petrillo, you have a short explanation of this resolution? Sure.
This is a lease for Daimler Chevrolet for two vehicles. One is a passenger van, the other is a cutaway bus to transport the program formerly known as the Job Start program, participants from the Department of Social Services to and from job placement and job training services. The reason that we're here today is a stipulation within the charter says that if this contract were to go beyond one fiscal year, we would have to notify the council of said contract. As of right now, the lease would be for these two vehicles. It is a 3-year lease. Although we anticipate having it paid off prior to the conclusion of one fiscal year, there is the potential for this to go beyond that.
This is the lease for the purchase.
The lease for the purchase of 3 vehicles. It totals $126,000+, or approximately $42,000 per year for these vehicles. The reason that they're being leased is for 2 reasons. One is it enables us to acquire the vehicles in a more expeditious manner as opposed to purchasing outright because of procurement stipulations. Secondly, because of the funding streams, DSS is ultimately paying for these vehicles. So they're getting them from 2 streams. One is from the program funds at the state level for this program in its totality, and secondly from their endowment fund, which would be the Donaldson Brown Fund. A portion of that has been used for these vehicles.
Where are the vehicles being leased for purchase?
Daimler.
Daimler?
Daimler Chevrolet.
Daimler.
Is the revenue stream from the Department of Social Services fairly certain over the next few years?
Yes, I'm confident in this. It's both for the capital purchase and the operations. This program as a whole, we estimate or we project the operations cost for this to be about $100,000 per year. As of right now, we've been awarded a $100,000 grant for 2 years from the Job Access Reverse Commute through Maryland Transit Administration. that requires a 50% match, of which the Department of Social Services committed to that. In addition, anything above that operation cost they have committed to. Secondly is for the purchase of these capital. In other words, we would not be able to provide this particular service with our current fleet, which is why we're requesting the purchase or lease of a passenger van as well as a cutaway bus. They are providing the funding for that.
Is the use and purpose of these buses going to be dedicated for this purpose, or will you be able to utilize them for other purposes?
We hope to create economies of scale with that, and what I mean by that is that we are in the process of purchasing, which we've talked about here before, a routing system that would enable us to enter in individuals' names and addresses of those individuals that we work for our demand response service. This will theoretically create a more efficient route and enable us to transport individuals, pick them up for various appointments in what we think is a more cost-efficient manner. We intend to use that particular service for this also. And if there are situations where we would have to transport individuals through our demand response with JobStart, then we fully intend to do that.
Good. Are there any other questions about this resolution that we introduced tonight?
Do you anticipate that there could be any future costs to the county if, for some reason, the funding should dry up? It's totally covered?
Councilman Roll, I answer this as honestly as I possibly can. When going into this, negotiations for this, which started approximately a year and a half ago, our intent is to go into this to be cost neutral to county government. We fully intend to stick to that. If we do anticipate costs in the future, we'll bring it before the council. But as of right now, we have a 2-year commitment for 50% of the operating cost. We have a commitment from DSS. We've discussed this at length with our county attorney as well as with our county exec. With any contract that we execute, there is a certain level of risk. I'm confident that this program will be still in place 2 years from now, and I'm confident with the commitment we have from Nick Ricciuti as the Director of the Department of Social Services.
At the end of the day, if the JobStart program goes away, we'll still own the buses.
That is the intent.
Any other questions or concerns? Will you be here this evening?
I can be if necessary.
Necessary for Mr. Julia to be here this evening? I guess we'll let him have the night off.
I will close with one thing, Mr. President, in that the vehicles being owned, the reason partially that we're holding these is obviously for the cost of fuel, as well as the preventative maintenance contract that we currently maintain with First Vehicle. That's creating more cost efficiencies for that. So our intent is, and with our discussions with DSS, would be at the end of this term period, we would in fact have these vehicles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, resolution number 67-2013, appointments, Department of Social Services Board. You have this resolution in your package. Are there any questions or concerns about it? Mr. Wine, do you have anything to add?
Just that the executive respectfully requests that the council confirm these appointments.
I just have one thing, the resolution reads of James Grove and Grove Miller, and it should be James Jones and Grove Miller.
Got it online, and I was looking up, I know Grove Miller, and I didn't know James Groves.
It's James Jones.
James Jones, right. Do you have, any information?
On him?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, no. Yeah.
He's a retired minister.
Oh, that James
Jim,
Jones.
Jim, it's Jim Jones, okay.
Methodist Church. He's been on, both these are reappointments. Both these people have been served.
Has Reverend Jones indicated an interest to be reappointed? I assume he has.
Yes.
He has suffered some pretty severe health issues.
My understanding, these come from the social services, or these recommendations come from social services.
you could forward do we have any resumes or?
Well, I'll check, since he's come, these recommendations come to the executive from social services, I'll check and see if we have an application for that.
Yeah, if we can make it a policy that, we receive an application even if it's a recommendation, just so we have some background.
Are there any further questions on the appointments for the Department of Social Services Board? We'll move on to the appointment for Special Counsel Board of Appeals. Resolution number 68-2013. Any questions regarding this confirmation? Mr. Juan, do you have anything to add?
Council President, I can add that, as we moved into charter government, we previously had attorneys who were retained to appoint some of the boards and commissions, for example, the Board of Appeals, the Planning Commission, and to do civil enforcement action for the Department of Permits and Inspection and the Department of Planning and Zoning. As we move into a new fiscal year, I thought it appropriate with the change to charter government to come forward as their purchase orders are set to be renewed and formally request their reappointment as special counsel is called for in the charter. Before doing so, we did check with the department heads who seemed to indicate that they were pleased with the services that had been provided. I would also add that Mr. Brown, Cameron Brown for the Board of Appeals, was just appointed this January to replace me when I moved up to county attorney, so he's a relatively new appointment anyway. But that's the reason for this action, and I would anticipate doing this annually as a matter of course.
Mr. Allison, we did check with like the Planning Commission and the Zoning Appeals Board to make sure that they're happy with them,
We
because
did.
that's the most important thing.
We did.
Okay.
Thank you.
In the future, I would have preferred that we would have a separate resolution for the appointment of each of these entities separately. In other words, a resolution for the appointment to the Board of Appeals, a resolution for the Planning Commission, and a resolution for the Code Enforcement. I know that there's some overlap that Claire Campbell's going to be on each one, except for Cameron Brown is only for the Appeals Board, right?
Correct.
I would prefer several resolutions for each entity in the future.
Okay. Thank you.
That way, if any, and we've run across this in the past where there may be a problem with one part of it, the council doesn't want to reject the entire resolution, if you know what I'm trying to say.
I do.
So we may say, well, we don't want an appointment made for this particular entity, so I really, it makes it cleaner. I don't think there'll be a problem for this particular appointment, that it has been a problem in the past.
Okay.
So if you break them out separately, it's helpful.
I will.
Can I ask Victor Randolph Johnson, do we have any information, do they work under?
Claire Campbell.
They do?
Yeah. Victor's a 2004 graduate of Widener University School of Law. He's been in practice locally since being sworn to the bar in December of 2004, first as a solo provider. I want to say for the last 5 or 6 years as an associate with Claire Campbell LLC.
Okay, the next resolution that's going to be introduced tonight is 69-2013. This is an appointment which is a special counsel for collective bargaining. Mr. Wine, do you have anything you want to add?
Mr. Allison, some background on this also.
I do. Formerly, we had used Miles and Stockbridge for representation in collective bargaining. I met with Miles and Stockbridge this spring, and they indicated that as a result of attrition in their collective bargaining division, they would not be able to provide collective bargaining representation to the county for this year's round of negotiations, and suggested Eric Paultel. Mr. Paultel has substantial experience, as set forth in my cover letter, in collective bargaining and is recognized as a leader in the field. He is partnered with a boutique firm that focuses substantially on collective bargaining, primarily on behalf of municipalities. He came very highly recommended from 2 independent attorneys, separate from each other. First being Miles and Stockbridge, and second being Melissa McGuire, who provides some representation from human resources. I'm requesting appointment as special counsel for this year, but you should know that I have an interest in trying to keep this in-house going forward, and I will be working closely with Eric Paulchell on my own nickel, ergo without charge for the county, to try to learn and understand the collective bargaining process, and make that part of my skill set as the county attorney, so that we can look to keep this in-house, if we so choose to do that in future years.
So, you basically said that you've done due diligence on this particular person, this particular law firm, and they have the experience and the background to represent the county well in all collective bargaining actions.
Yes.
I just like to say that this is a very specialized field that is obviously changing, and the learning curve is steep, and I hate for us to say to ourselves, oh, we're good enough to take on the attorneys representing the other side of the table. So I'd be very cautious to say that, oh, I got it under control.
Duly noted. I will get a good feel for that pretty quick, I think. So.
Yeah, from my experience, it's very complicated, and you don't want to get run over. Any questions on that particular resolution that's going to be introduced tonight? Okay, the next resolution is 70-2013, assignment of promissory note loan agreement deed of trust for new nurseries. As you recall, last week we had a gentleman who came in and explained the reason that we have to make some amendments. And is there any questions? Anything new, Mr. Weiner, on that particular matter?
No, not to my knowledge. I know that Mr. Winston Robinson, Jason, Lisa Webb have worked with DBED on this to, I guess, affect the assignment of the new back to the state.
This is basically a house cleaning resolution that has no fiscal impact on the county, is that correct?
Yes.
Any questions? Next one for introduction is resolution 71-2013, an agreement, mutual aid agreement, the sheriff's office, continue the packet. Mr. Wine, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Whiteford will handle it.
Anything to add?
Mutual aid, I'm sorry. I thought we were on.
That's my notes.
We're at 71-2013.
There we go.
Law enforcement mutual aid agreement. Each year, the sheriff's department has entered into a mutual aid agreement with the towns incorporated in Cecil County, as well as with MTA, Maryland Transportation Administration. Typically, that was done by signature of the council president. As we moved into charter government, I initially looked to continue that tradition and have the county executive sign off. However, I will tell you that I received a bulletin from one of the professional organizations I belong to that suggested that lawyers have been challenging mutual aid agreements with some success across the state when they are not adopted by the legislative body of the jurisdiction, which of course brought this to a screeching halt in my mind and redirected it to the council for consideration. The document you have in front of you is in substance, if not in form, the same agreement that has been signed off between the sheriff's department, the county, and the towns and MTA for several years. So it continues that legal tradition, but it has now come before the council at my suggestion, so that we don't run into any problems with enforceability should somebody be stopped or arrested, while acting under this agreement.
As far as you know, the language is pretty similar from previous years.
The language should be very similar. I did change some things around. Lawyers can't keep their hands off things, but it's more style than substance.
Mr. Rumel, did you have a question?
Well, there's been, in the past, the MTA has been criticized for overstepping their bounds and, going after, drivers, away from the Hayden Bridge, food line, parking lot, give them tickets for, well, they're a little over aggressive. Is there, if we're having a mutual aid, agreement, we could weigh in on that and what can we do about that?
Well, I think there's a threshold now that the courts are keen to what the jurisdiction of MTA is generally. I think that if you have concerns about MTA going beyond the intention of this agreement, I certainly think you can have a sit down with them and discuss it.
I think the current agreement with MTA defines their territory going, east to Jackson Station Road and north on 222. It's north of the town limits, I believe. But I think that's what Councilwoman Rumel is alluding to, that the area outside of, the bridge, and the area associated with the bridge.
I can understand why there might be an extended area away from the bridge. If they're going after, they've seen something.
An emergency.
Yes, but when they're basically going after running stop signs or running lights, you know, things like that, and it becomes a, what do you call it, it's where they're just harassing people, because of revenue. If we could do something about that, you know, we really should.
I would suggest that if there are concerns that they are exceeding the scope of their jurisdiction, whether it be under statute or under agreement, that I would be happy to facilitate a discussion with whoever is the appropriate authority with MTA for the council and or the executive and both to address those concerns. And I will also tell you that the courts are savvy
Yes.
to that. So,
I've heard judges reprimanding them many times, and I think the town of Perryville might want to sit down with us as well.
Sure.
So I think I appreciate that.
yeah, I'd be happy to.
Especially in light of the July 1st poll increases, it's a good time to talk.
Okay, my ears are open for you.
Right, I agree that this mutual aid document is not the document to discuss this matter, but, if the Councilwoman Brunel wants to have a meeting with Maryland Transportation Authority, Police, and Perryville, we can do something with that at a later time. Is there any other questions about the mutual aid agreement with the Sheriff's Office? Will be introduced tonight. All right. Item G is the budget amendment. Mr. Whitefield, you going to talk about the budget amendment? Public schools.
Yes, Council President Hodge, members of the council, before you this evening is a budget amendment for Cecil County Public Schools. Period of adjustment this is in reference to is for March and April 2013. It is intended to record $309,826 of other revenue and federal revenue and match it up with corresponding expenditures. As previously indicated, this amendment is ordinary and routine. They must provide this to us for your action. In the event there is no action, it is deemed to have been authorized within 30 days. This requires no additional output of outlay of county funds.
I think the council's seen one of these ones before.
Yes, sir.
Are there any questions on the public school budget amendment that we say tonight?
So, I was looking for the item, where's the revenue coming from?
For their their backup. The revenue is recording. It's a variety of items. There's $29,000 worth of Approaching Targets grant, Holly Hall Elementary, and transfer. What it amounts to is Approaching Targets grant at Holly Hall Elementary to support staff professional development in language arts in the amount of $29,117. The donation from BPAC of $730. Use of prior year funds to purchase laptops and wireless technology upgrades in the amount of $274,211.
So this was, that's where the majority of the funding is. Where did that originally come from?
Their document does not indicate, it's indication use of prior year funding remaining. But we can check if it's critical.
Do you have any additional questions? I'm sure that Mr. Capper of the Public Schools will have to answer anything.
Yeah, I would just be curious to see where did it originally?
I'd encourage you to call at the meeting.
I think Mr. White.
We'll take care of it.
Mr. Massey, do you have any items to report?
No meetings, but you had asked me, I believe as part of the emergency notice, if we were going to have a meeting, does the Open Meetings Act have any suggestions? And I just wanted to report, this is in the Open Meetings Act, that the rule of thumb, given the policies of the Act, is that a notice of a future meeting should be given as soon as possible, as is practical, after the body has fixed the date, time, and place of its meeting. If events require the prompt convening of a previously unscheduled meeting, the public body is to provide the best public notice feasible under the circumstances. For example, the public body would be well advised to provide immediate oral notice to reporters who are reasonably thought to be interested, and a written notice should be posted in the customary public place as quickly as possible. Impromptu meetings or not, the Act's procedure must be followed.
Is there anything in the council policy procedure guides that indicate that we, the council, are going to comply with the Open Meetings Act?
No, it isn't. It is not.
Could we add something?
Sure.
Just in general, someplace so that we don't have to put it everywhere, but in general, like we want to comply with the Meetings Act. And I think that it's important that we have it in our guide someplace, just to say that it's a general principle.
It sounds to me like it's very generally worded. And since we have an attorney here, is there any precedent as to what guidance we should follow?
I'm not familiar with any right off the top of my head, but I would suggest that the more notice you can give, the better.
Mr. Allison, would you speak into the mic?
I'm sorry, I would suggest that the more notice you can give, the better, obviously. It's not always practical to do that. If an issue comes up during the meeting, you may need to convene an executive session, but if it can be anticipated, for example, it's on the agenda today to meet with counsel regarding litigation. Clearly, we wanted to make sure that that was put out there in advance. It was. So the more notice we give, the better. I'd certainly be happy if the council wants some guidelines to look at the advisory opinions from the Open Meetings Compliance Board and to try to inform you as to what might be acceptable and not acceptable.
That's closed meetings. We're talking about emergency meetings, aren't we?
That was what the question was.
Which is much different.
Indeed it is. Emergency meetings are controlled by our charter. And in terms of notice, again, I think the more notice the better, but if it's an emergency, there may be very little notice. I'm not certain how that's gonna handle, frankly, by the Open Meetings Act, but I think that if there's an emergency meeting, notice should be given as soon as possible, when it's determined that this body's gonna have an item up on the agenda as an emergency item.
And I agree with that, and, I think if it's going to be challenged, we're gonna have proof that we put that notice up as soon as possible.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject with technology, I think that a good place to start is to get it up on the internet right away, on the website. Many people will look at that, and it's where many people probably bring the agenda down to take a look at what's happening, so, a good start would be to get that published, on the website as soon as possible.
Jim, you had said something about reporters notifying